truck, and the guy says,
Right.
no, this is legit.
Right.
The police can come and take it from you even if you pay $200. That's
Right.
why you don't buy it. You make sure it's not a stolen item.
Remember in the subways, these guys would have carpets, like these things. They would roll it out, and they would sell ties and socks and watches.
Like this,
and
on
belts.
a watch.
Yeah, like that.
In the
I
jacket.
remember.
They still do.
I remember.
On Wall Street, they sell these fancy Hermes ties, right? Right
I
outside.
remember trying to buy some socks from one of these guys, and all of a sudden the guy just runs away, and I have the socks in my hand. He ran away. He rolls his car. He ran. He must have got a message from someone that.
There's a barefooted guy running after him.
Potiphar's wife.
So hey,
Potiphar's wife.
okay.
Oh, with the towels.
He ran
So-
away and left him with the socks.
We said that there's a machlekes here.
Yeah.
If between Rav and Rabasi, if the kohen goes to the buyer or he goes to the butcher. So Damar Islay Rav said that if the butcher was the one that weighed it, so then the kohen has to go to the butcher. So Ravasi holds Damar Islay the Rav Chizda. Ravasi holds like Rav Chizda that the kohen can go to either one. Umar Leslie the Rav Chizda, because the kohen didn't give up hope, right? It's not like I don't know if that's a factor here, but in Rav doesn't hold the Rav Chizda. You can only go to the person that you are obligated to take it from, not this guy after that. Gemara says like the Kuli Alma Islay the Rav Chizda. Everyone holds like Rav Chizda. The Hacha the Matanis Kunin Exalis Kamiflagi. Here the machlekes is: are the gifts considered? Are they able to be stolen? Just like property is not able to be stolen. So Damar Savar Nigzalis. Rav holds that it could be stolen. And therefore, if the butcher weighed it and then he gave it away to the seller, so the butcher is the one that stole it. So the kohen goes to the butcher and the butcher is obligated to get it for him. Mar Savar Nigzalis. The other one says that it's not never stolen. Wherever it is, you just go to where the item is. You go to the seller and you take it from the seller. It's from the buyer. You take it from the buyer.
Because it belongs to the Kohen
The whole time. Right. Just like land. Like we said, land. It never changes hand. It doesn't change if you squat. A squatter is lives on his property. It doesn't. It's not that he stole it. You just kick the guy off.
Right.
Okay. Some learned this as a separate halacha. Rav Amar Matanis Kun Nigzalis, Ravasi Amar Matanis Kun Nigzalis. That they said it clearly, not there as a way of explaining if the butcher weighed it or if the other person weighed it, weighed the meat and all of that. Not as an explanation for that machlekes, but they said clearly that there's a machlekes Rav and Ravasi if the Matanis Kun are stolen. What's the difference if it's stolen? If the kohen goes to the last person to get it, if it's not stolen, the kohen can go to the last person, wherever the item is. He doesn't go to the thief. There is no thief. It's just an item that needs to be returned, right? And if it is considered stolen, then he can actually go to the person that made it change hands. He goes to that first person and says, "Where is it?" And that first person needs to go and check if it still exists. Now, if it doesn't exist, we learned from Rav Chizda before that he doesn't have to give it. Mishnah says, Gershon Eskayer. Chassidus always says, Gershon Eskayer. It should be Goyshen Eskayer, right?
Right.
It means that he was always has a neshama. It means that he has a neshama.
No.
What do you
He
mean?
was always meant to be. He had
But
neshama.
he's
to
not
say-
dead.
So it's a question,
Right.
really. In other
Yeah.
words, he was always a Jew, as opposed to a goy.
Right.
That's really the chiddush.
Right.
I
So,
was for bringing from the Rabbi, where the Rabbi discussed this whole thing about a ger. And he said, why doesn't it say a goy, the converter? Why does it say ger?
Right.
Because a ger is not a goy, but it's not yet a Jew. So it's like a Jew waiting to happen.
right,
That's what we just said.
right.
It's for
Wake
bringing.
V'haisalei para. And the ger has a cow. Nishchata, and it was slaughtered. Ad shalei neskayer, if it was slaughtered before he converted. Pater, he doesn't have to give the matanis. It was slaughtered when he wasn't Jewish. Misha neskayer, if it's after he converted, I'll explain to you the case. Then he's chayiv. Safek. let's say we don't know if it was before or if it was after he converted, he's exempt. Here's the story. In my experience, the ger is in the mikveh. He's with the rabbis. They're putting him in the mikveh. Back home, they're making a party, and they slaughtered an animal. They don't know, was it before the tefillah or after the tefillah? So you have to check what time it was. They lost track of time, the whole thing. We don't know when it was. So it could be he's obligated to give the matanas if it was slaughtered after. It could be it was... You follow? Okay. Kiyasa Rav Dimi. When Rav Dimi came, Rav Dimi was the traveler. Another traveler.
He was
like
another
Ula, like Ravin. Who did we have? Okay. Amar, he said, Rami le Reb Shimon ben Lakish le Rabbi Yechanan. Reb Shimon ben Lakish asked Rabbi Yechanan, this is the yeshiva in Tveria. Rish Lakish asks Rabbi Yechanan the following question. Tanana was taught in the Mishnah. Suffolk, if there's a doubt, it's pater. He's exempt. That's what we said by us. Alma sveika lekula. See, that if there's a doubt, you're lenient when it comes to gifts. You don't have to give it. Is this how it works in taxes? If there's a doubt, you don't have to give it?
In Texas?
Taxes. For a minute. I'll ask you a contradiction. You see, in the fields, there could be holes that are made by burrows, made by animals. Grain could fall down and fall into those little holes that are in the ground. So some grain that falls has to be left for the poor, right? Leket, if a stalk falls, one falls during the harvest, it has to be left for the poor. So if you have grain that's inside this holes, the Shabbatei Chakama, it's amongst the standing grain, and you have the holes that are amongst the standing grain. It wasn't harvested yet. So Haril Shel Balabayas, of course, the grain over there belongs to the Balabayas because it's only after the harvest that the ones that fall are left for the poor. It wasn't harvested yet.
So there's holes.
You have a field,
so the poor
and you're
can
harvesting
get
it.
The leket, whatever.
From the stalks that fall, that gets left for the poor.
Right.
But from the stalks that are standing, if you find the grain on the floor over there, it wasn't harvested yet, it doesn't go to the poor. Right. But if it's after the ones that are harvested, and you look down and you see there's holes over there, so now some of the grain fell from the harvesting. Some of the grain could have fallen from before. So hal yoinim, those that's above on the top of the hole, so that's la'aniyim, that goes to the poor because that's from the harvesting. Tachtainim shel balabayas. What's on the bottom? That belongs to the owner because that could have fallen before and the ants carried it in there for their collection.
So that's their harvest. Well, that's not. In other words, that's theirs, and then what's on top they have to leave
It's for the poor.
For the poor,
because that probably fell from the harvesters, and you don't go back and pick that stuff up if one stalk falls or something. Reb Meir says hakol la'aniyim, everything belongs to the poor. It's just safek leket. You don't know, and if it's a question, you have to leave it for the poor. Now Reb Meir says that a safek you have to give to the poor. In our Mishnah, we don't have any name. It's an anonymous Mishnah. What's the rule by an anonymous Mishnah? Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir. Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir. So look at this. Rish Lakish asks Rabbi Yechanan a question based on the rule of Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir. Our Mishnah is Reb Meir. And now Reb Meir over here says that a safek you're chayav to give. Our Mishnah says a safek you're pater to give. So Amar Lei, Rabbi Yechanan responds, Al takni teini. Don't pester me. Don't bother me. Rabbi Yechanan said this a few times already. He says, I taught this Mishnah that it's only a single opinion. Not everyone agrees with this. In other words, even that Reb Meir holds this, not everyone agrees. The Tanya was taught in a Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra Mishum Reb Meir. Yehuda ben Agra says in the name of Reb Meir, Safed leket. Safek shikha. If it's a question, if it was a forgotten bundle, it's considered shikha. Safek peya. If it's a question, if it's peya, you have to keep it as peya, and therefore it's only Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra that says this name of Reb Meir. Really, Reb Meir doesn't. Other opinions say that Reb Meir doesn't hold this, and that's not a contradiction with our Mishnah.
So we're saying in the Mishnah you're pater,
right?
But he's saying according to the.
But and it's Reb Meir, and it's Reb Meir. But right. There's another opinion that Reb Meir says different, but that's not this opinion. Al takmiteni. Amar Loi, Rish Lakish responds.
Don't hold me what I said before, or something like that.
Yeah, that you can't.
Don't hold it against me.
Right, don't hold it against me because I already have this resolved because I taught this Mishnah, I taught this Bais differently. Amalei Reish Lakish says to him, Al Tishana Isa, Al Tishna Isa, Ela Baloshin Ben Tadel. I don't care even if Ben Tadel said it. Now Ben Tadel was, Rashi says, was an idiot, and or just like an imbecile or something. And he says, I don't care who taught this. There's a reason that makes sense. It doesn't matter who said it. You don't look at the name of who said it. Look at the content. On the content. Amar Reb Shimon ben Lakish. My diksiv. What does it mean in the pasuk? Ani v'rashet stiku. That the poor and the impoverished, you make righteous. My stiku. What does it mean? You make them righteous. Eily bedinim doesn't mean in court. Oh, that's a big problem. You can't just paskin. You can't just rule that they are correct and just to be able to give them extra money. That you can't make him look better in court when he has a conflict, because that's not justice. Rather, if there's a question, you should give from yourself and give it to him. So there's a proof that you should do extra. So Reb Meir, I don't care if you say that it's one person that said it, but Reb Meir here is right. Amar Rava says, by the ger, he was always not Jewish. You're trying to tell me that he's Jewish? There's a chazaka that he wasn't Jewish. Until you know that the ger is Jewish, there's a chazaka that he wasn't. So therefore the chazaka is that this cow doesn't need to be given. But kama b'cheskas kriva kaima. But the grain has the obligation. Okay.
It's the same by the there's a chazaka that he wasn't Jewish, and that's why he's potter. But by the grain, there's a chazaka